For the last decade, India's gig economy ran on a familiar playbook. First came the discount wars in cabs, then food delivery, e commerce. Each time, cash rich startups flooded a market with subsidies until consumers changed their habits. And then someone was left with holding the bill. Now, that same cycle has arrived at the one place that we thought was immune to it: the domestic worker, the cook, the cleaner, the person who basically helps run your home. The home services market in India is worth $60 billion, and it is spectacularly chaotic. For a certain class of city dweller, domestic workers are the infrastructure. And yet, the people doing this work operate in one of the most unprotected labor markets in the country. No minimum wage, no formal contracts, no safety net. Three startups are now formalizing that relationship, or at least that's the pitch. The idea is basically just pull out your phone, tap twice, and somebody is going to show up at your door, trained, uniform, and on time, and all for less than the price of a coffee per hour, which you have to agree is suspiciously low. So, naturally, orders are exploding, investors are queuing up, and one company reportedly peaked at 50,000 bookings in a single day. So, by all visible measures, this is kind of working. But there is a number buried in the data that changes the entire story. For every order placed, turns out the market leader is losing more than double of what the customer pays. And the industry's own projections suggest that nobody is going to turn a profit for another 6 years. So the question is, who, if anybody, is making actual money from this? Welcome to Daybreak, a business podcast from the Ken. I'm your host Nidha Sharma, and I don't chase the news cycle. Instead, every day of the week, my colleague Rachel Varghese and I will come to you with one business story that is worth understanding and worth your time. Today is Thursday, the 30th of April. The starter's gun was actually fired by the smallest player. Snabbit, founded by Ayush Agarwal, who was previously chief of staff at Zepto, launched in September 2024. Within 4 months, Urban Company, which was the dominant player in India's organized home services space, responded with its own instant domestic help product called Instahelp. 3 months after that, a Gurgaon based startup called Pronto entered the market. Each one of them came in cheaper than the last one. Snabbit offered 3 visits for 198 rupees. Pronto made the opening price essentially symbolic: 1 rupee for one visit, 25 rupees per 30 minutes after that, and Urban Company landed somewhere in the middle, starting at 99 rupees per hour before trimming it further. Domestic work in India has always existed outside formal systems. Workers with no contracts, no guaranteed hours, no protection if a household simply decides to stop calling them. The result is a market that is unstable for everybody, including the workers navigating it. These companies are stepping into this gap, offering workers uniforms, training, and a platform. Whether that translates into genuine protection is a question that the industry hasn't fully answered. What it has answered, though, at least for now, is consumer demand. Instahelp went from a few thousand orders a quarter to 1.5 million by December. Urban Company's own leadership pointed out that their core business, which is plumbing, electrical, beauty, took 6 years to reach the daily booking rate that Instahelp hit in 12 months. My colleague, the Ken reporter Suprit Anupam, went through the numbers. In February 2024, here is where things were. Instahelp had 8,40,000 orders that month. Snabbit had 8,30,000, and Pronto was at about 3,40,000 and closing fast. Now, Instahelp's lead starts making sense when you look at Urban Company closely. It already had a logistics infrastructure, worker training pipelines, and a 50 crore rupee stake in MyGate, which is a platform that manages access to over 15,000 gated housing societies across India. That's a distribution network competitors would take years to replicate. But the challengers are not really standing still. Snabbit has built a workforce of 12,000, nearly all women, and operates across roughly 100 high density micro markets in 4 cities. Pronto, despite launching last, has spread to more than 10 cities and is carving out a different niche. 30-minute engagements versus the 1 hour floor that Instahelp and Snabbit require. Money is flowing freely. Snabbit has raised 4 rounds, the latest valuing it at $150 million. A Series D is in the works. Pronto has pulled in $40 million across 3 rounds in under a year, with General Catalyst and Bain Capital among its backers. 5 investors that the Ken spoke to used some version of the same phrase, which is, "This is quick commerce's moment for home services." This comparison feels intuitive. Quick commerce did not just make groceries faster, it rewired how people shop, turned planned purchases into impulsive ones. We know this. The argument is that once home help becomes reliable and instant, people stop thinking of it as a luxury and start treating it as a given. But there is a point where this analogy starts to strain. More on that in the next segment. When Blinkit delivers groceries, the average customer spends around 669 rupees per order. When someone books through Instahelp, that number is 172 rupees. Snabbit and Pronto are lower still. A JM Financial survey found that 82% of consumers, taxes included, draw a hard line at 200 rupees per hour. That is the ceiling that the whole market is working within. And on that 172 rupee order for Instahelp, Urban Company is currently spending more than twice of what it earns. The structural problem is the nature of domestic work itself. A plumber's bill climbs, which is diagnosis, repair, parts. There are multiple layers to charge for it. Domestic work, on the other hand, does not have that structure. It is labor intensive, it is frequent, and the entire value is in the person who is showing up, which makes building margin genuinely hard. The only path to profitability runs through volume and loyalty. Customers who book consistently over years and gradually accept paying more as trust builds. That is the long road. Urban Company's founder told investors in January this year that the company's other businesses, which is the profitable core, should be generating enough by late financial year 2028 to absorb what Instahelp is losing. So, when then will Instahelp break even on its own terms? Apparently, FY 2031. It is apparently the same story for Snabbit as well, according to its own valuation documents. For private backers, that runway is a known risk that they signed up for. For Urban Company's public shareholders, meanwhile, who watched the stock fall over 35%, the calculus is less comfortable. The counter argument, and this is a real one, is that behavior changes take time and subsidy. For example, when quick commerce launched, delivery fees felt offensive. Now, people pay them reflexively. So, formalization, of course, creates trust, and trust eventually creates willingness to pay more. Urban Company has 2,000 crore rupees in cash and a founder who has built trust with its investors through one full market cycle already. But right now, the worker who is going to arrive at your door, who is punctual, trained, and offensively inexpensive, is costing the platform far more than it's earning. So, the question hanging over this entire market is actually quite simple. Will customers still open the door once the price reflects reality? And when that day comes, who absorbs the gap? The platform, the investor, or the person who's doing the work?
Daybreak is produced from the newsroom of the Ken, India's first subscriber focused business news platform. What you're listening to is just a small sample of our subscriber only offerings, and a full subscription offers daily, long form feature stories, newsletters, and a whole bunch of premium podcasts. To subscribe, head to theken.com and click on the red subscribe button on the top of the website. Today's episode was hosted and produced by my colleague Snigdha Sharma and edited by Rajiv CN.